Hey besties, it's Jill, and today I'm going to be going through the list of books that I want to try and read this spring. I've seen a couple of other people do spring TBRs and it really has inspired me to make my own because I always associate like the season of spring with like new life, invigoration. I always like try and read new kinds of books and new authors during spring because I find it's the most encouraging season to do so. And I also do have a little bit of an announcement for this video, which I'm really excited to discuss. I hope you're all doing very well and that you're looking after yourselves. If you've yet to get your drink of water, please do so. We must remain well and hydrated. If you don't have water, just have your beverage of choice. And if you've yet to follow me on my Instagram, nor my Twitter, nor my TikTok, I would highly recommend you go and do that because I post some extra bookish content that you're not gonna see here. I've got about like 10/11 books that I want to discuss today, and whilst I was like creating the list for this, I was thinking about books that aren't as obvious as I want to read, kind of like Yellowface and The Sun and the Star, but also just books that have been on my radar for a while or have newly come into my radar that I'm really excited to read. And so I think these like 10/11, because two books are fitting into one, are just gonna be really exciting to talk about and also give a different like insight into different parts of my reading habits. But before we get into the picks, I do have a little bit of a special announcement. So I'm really excited to announce that I'm starting a solo book club on Fable. Now that my life has become a bit more organized and the office is almost done, I have missed interacting with you all through a book club. The late night book club has been amazing and that's still currently on hiatus, but I've missed being able to read a book with all of you. And so I've decided to create the Book Explorers Tavern. It's a cozy and casual space on Fable where we'll be multi-dimensional explorers. We'll be venturing through many different worlds and genres of books together, and I'm super excited for it. Fable have sponsored this portion of the video, and with their support, it has meant that I've been able to start and run this book club for you all. With the Fable app, you're able to join book clubs that are moderated by people like me, or start your own private club for you and your friends. But if you're anything like me, you'll probably be doing a bit of both. Every month or period of your choosing, there'll be different books to read with discussion rooms for each chapter and spaces for reflection so that Fable can help keep discussion spoiler free whilst also promoting an encouraging reader space. Whilst you can read the books in any way you choose, if you're in the US, you can also opt to get an ebook through Fable and read it through the custom e-reader where you're able to make highlights, notes, comments, and emoji reactions, and you can set it so that other readers within the club can see your annotations and interact with them as well. But don't worry, everyone across the world can still join the club and interact in every other way. Plus, with Fable's abilities to make book lists, get personalized recommendations, and rate using half stars, I cannot tell you how satisfying it is to be able to use half stars. Like, it's amazing. It makes Fable quite the great app to use to not only build a reading community, but also foster a new reading habit as well. So if you'd like to join the Book Explorers Tavern and become a patron of our fine establishment, then you can use the link in my description to download Fable for yourself for free, and you should definitely introduce yourself in the tavern's lobby. But for now, I should probably get to announcing our first book club pick, which is also coincidentally the first book on my spring TBR. And so the very first book that I want to read in spring, and also the very first book club pick for the Book Explorers Tavern, is Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. And so with this book, I was watching a few TikToks of like science fiction and fantasy recommendations, and so many people were recommending Foundry Side that when I read the synopsis of it, I knew that I had to read it, and I've just heard nothing but good things about it. So let me give you the lowdown about Foundry Side. Sancia Grado is a damn good thief, and her latest target is nothing her unique abilities can't handle. However, unbeknownst to her, she's been sent to steal an artifact of unimaginable power, one that could revolutionize the magical technology known as scribing. Now, someone in the merchant houses wants Sancia dead and the artifact for themselves so that they can rewrite the world to suit their own aims. And so Sancia must learn to harness the artifact's power for herself, a power that will transform her into something she never could have imagined. And so I'm really excited to read this. I think it's definitely got elements of like this kind of commentary on capitalism that I think is gonna be pretty awesome, but also the way that like corporations seek to use things for their own ends and means. It reminds me of a book that I'm gonna be reading later called Flux by Jingwoo Chong, which is kind of like inadvertently discovering time travel and using it to cover a series of violent crimes. But I really like the sound of this one, and I think it's gonna be really intriguing to read and just see the kind of things that come from this book, and the amount of people that have like recommended it for its unique magic system and just the way that you feel for some of these characters. I'm very much excited for it, and I hope you are too. And I'm very excited to read it with you through the Fable app, and it's gonna be great. It's gonna be so great. The second book that I then want to read during spring is Annihilation by Jeff Vandermeer, purely for two reasons. The first reason is that my friend Cersei really likes it and really recommends it. Then also there's the fact that the film adaptation with Natalie Portman and Tessa Thompson, I watched half of it and fell asleep because I was really tired. But now I want to go back and watch it, but I also want to read the book first before watching it. I think it's gonna be really intriguing. And this basically follows Area X, which has been cut off from the rest of the world for decades. And each expedition that goes into Area X comes out of it with something equally as horrifying. And in this book, we join the 12th expedition, which is made up of 4 women: an anthropologist, a surveyor, the de facto leader of a psychologist, and also our narrator, a biologist. And whilst they go in expecting the unexpected, it's actually what they brought in with them and the secrets they're hiding from each other that will change everything for them. And so I think it's gonna be really intriguing to read this because nature's kind of reclaimed the area, and it's gonna be intriguing to see like the kind of sci-fi horrorness of it all. I think it's gonna be a little bit psychological, which I'm always a fan of, and I think this is gonna be another one that may potentially become a Book Explorers Tavern pick because, you know, I don't want us to explore Area X because I feel like that would be a really bad idea, but we can do it through reading someone else's experience of it. But overall, I have been wanting to read Jeff Vandermeer for quite some time, and so finally being able to do this has made me immensely happy. And the third book I want to read this spring is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison, and this one was because my friend Asia recommended it after reading, and whenever one of my friends recommends me a book, it literally bumps to the top of my TBR. And yeah, I was supposed to read this in March, but I haven't had the time to, so I'm gonna try and get it read over the next couple months, which is gonna be more manageable for me, especially with the amount of like reading and video gaming I'm gonna be doing over the next couple months. Hello, Tears of the Kingdom. And so this basically follows Maya, who is the youngest half-goblin son of the Emperor, who is basically then thrust into Imperial Court after his father and 3 brothers died because of an accident. And now Maya is overwhelmed by the burdens of his new life, where he can basically trust no one because there are swirls of plots to depose him, offers of arranged marriages, there are conspirators lurking in the shadows, and so all of this basically means he has to adjust to life quickly as the new Goblin Emperor. And this edition is the Broken Binding edition, which looks absolutely gorgeous. Asia did let me know the significance of this balloon, and it's honestly really funny that they put it on the nakedness of this book. Honestly, it's the kind of dark humor that I like. But I think it's gonna be really intriguing to see how this story plays out. Someone on TikTok was telling me there are like sister novels to this, which I really didn't know about, so I'm intrigued to see how those are gonna play out as well. Like, if I like this, maybe I'll read those. But yeah, overall, I think it is gonna make for quite the intriguing read. The lighting today has been chaotic as heck, and hopefully my color grading will solve this. The 4th book I then want to read is Justice of Kings by Richard Swan, and I think the reason I want to read this book is primarily because of Reagan from Peruse Project, who did a TikTok about it, and all of my reading recommendations are coming from TikTok. I think I need to do some kind of video on this. TikTok is infecting me, besties. TikTok is infecting me, but I'm having a lot of fun over there. But yeah, basically Reagan recommended this to me. I had it on my shelf already. I read the synopsis and I was just like, I can't believe I forgot about this book's existence because I wanted to read it and then forgot about it, and now the 2nd book is out, so I want to read the 1st book before I get the 2nd book. You know how it goes. But this is the Goldspur edition, which has really stunning like scale swordy like sprayed edges. I really like this design. It speaks to my soul. There's swords, there's scales. It's beautiful. And so in this world, we follow Sir Conrad von Volt, who is one of the Emperor's justices, which is basically like a detective, judge, and executioner all rolled up into one role, which is kind of efficient if you get me. However, this doesn't come with its own risks, and with the Empire of the Wolf simmering in unrest, and a conspiracy is unearthed that stretches to the very top of Imperial society, Will von Volt and his talented protege Helena abandon the laws they've sworn to uphold in order to protect the Empire. And so I am just really looking forward to reading this. I think it's going to be a kind of delve into like the crime genre that I have been avoiding because it's not like true crime isn't really something that I like getting into, but I do like a blend of like fantasy and crime, and I think it's going to be that perfect blend that I'm looking for. So hopefully maybe through this I will then get into the crime genre. Who knows? But I'm excited for this book regardless. The next book I then want to read is Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and this one has been on my radar for quite a while, and I have picked up like books 2 and 3 in this series as well to kind of marathon them, but also I don't know if I will. This is kind of like a cozy fabulism novel that I'm really intrigued by. So essentially, this book is about a coffee shop in Japan that specializes in a certain type of coffee where their patrons are able to travel back in time. And in this book, we see 4 unique visitors make use of their services, but it isn't with their own restrictions. They basically have to sit in a certain space within the cafe. They're not able to leave the cafe once they travel back in time, and they must return to the present before the coffee gets cold. But also, I definitely do theorize that one person isn't going to return and the coffee's going to get cold and they're stuck in the past forever. But I'm really intrigued by this. I think like Japanese fiction has a way of always interacting with the nuances of life and the way that we view life, relationships, identity. And I think it's so intriguing. And so I'm really looking forward to reading this and seeing the kind of observations that are made by the characters. And so, yeah, I think it's gonna be quite good. And I've heard such resounding things about the story and about kind of the emotions that it put people through. And yeah, I just really can't wait for it. The next book that I then want to read this spring is one that I heavily associate with spring, and one that is technically a reread, and one that is a classic. And so we have Little Women by Louisa May Alcott. This one I want to reread because of like book reasons, like writing reasons, but it's also been a while since I've read Little Women, and I do want to rewatch the film soon. I think it's gonna be a great refresher of the Little Women book before going into the film. For those who don't know, I'm going from the synopsis without trying to be spoilery. Little Women is a story of family growing up and the strength of women that recounts the adventures of the four March sisters, who experience adversity, hardship, joy, and tragedy on their path to womanhood. And so it's like a build-in romance times 4, but also it's really like cute and also tragic and also sad, but also really happy. It's a mixture of emotions, and I'm just really excited to reread this, and I think it's gonna be great. I think I might annotate it this time because I have been wanting to annotate Little Women for a while. I've definitely wanted to get back into reading more classics because I've had a bit of distance from reading classics since being in academia, and I think now that I've kind of separated myself from it, I can start enjoying classics more freely again without having to strictly always go into the critical thought and feeling of it, because it felt like I couldn't when I was in academia. I think that's a blend of both the environment that I was in, but also the pressures that I put on myself. So yeah, I'm excited to read classics for fun. The next book I then want to read this spring is Song of Silver, Flame Like Night by Amelie Wen Zhao. And this one is the Illumicrate edition, and I'm obsessed with the painted edge. It's so gorgeous. And then it's like a printed hardback as well, which I think was really gorgeous. I am in love with it. But Song of Silver, Flame Like Light has been a book that really caught my eye. Whenever someone compares something to a wuxia drama, my brain is like, yes, I need that in my life. And so essentially, in a fallen kingdom, one girl carries the key to discovering the secrets of her nation's past, and also the demons that sleep at its heart. Following Lan, who struggles to understand the strange mark burned on her arm by her mother before she died, who is then saved by Zen, one of the fabled magicians of the Last Kingdom. And through their interactions, they discover 3 things. They both have secrets buried deep within. They both have the power to liberate their land from the Atlantean colonizers, but they also both have the power to destroy the world. You know, it's that kind of angst and that kind of feeling of like, oh, I could really save the world or end it. It's that kind of like grayness that really draws me to a novel. And so I'm hoping Song of Silver Flame Like Night can deliver on that and that kind of dynamic. It's just this kind of like theorizing that really makes me excited to read a book. And so I'm really excited to see what happens in Song of Silver Flame Like Night, and hopefully it will deliver a story that I really enjoy. The next book I then want to read this spring is an arc of a book that comes out in June 2023, but it's one that I'm really excited for, and that is Morgan Is My Name by Sophie Keach. This is a Arthurian mythology book following Morgan Le Fay. You know, BBC's Merlin, I loved Morgana. She was one of my favorite characters. I do think they gave her a bit of a character assassination when they turned her evil, because it didn't really make sense that Merlin did not tell her that he had magic, because it would have resolved the entire situation, because her entire villain arc was founded on the fact that she was lonely. You can tell I have a lot of feelings about this. She can become the villain. It needs to be for an entirely different reason than the one that was given. And this book basically follows Morgan, whose father is killed and mother is married to Uther Pendragon, and she refuses to be crushed. And so under the machinations of men, Morgan discovers that she has secret powers, ones that make her a worthy adversary to Merlin, who is one of the most influential advisors to the king. But fighting for her freedom isn't without risks, to herself, to her reputation, and most importantly, to the ones that she loves. This really is giving me vibes of like Circe, although I haven't read it, but it's kind of like a feminist reclaiming of a story, telling it from that perspective and showing us what these women had to do in order to survive. I think it's these things that I love that are touched upon, and I can't wait to read this, and hopefully it does deliver on that kind of Morgana redemption that I wanted. Arthurian legend is very steeped within Welsh mythology, and so I think it's going to be a really cool story, and and I cannot wait to read it and just devour it. And plus it's the start of a new trilogy as well, which I think is going to be iconic, so I can't wait. The penultimate books I then want to read this spring is actually a collection of like short stories, and they're both published by the British Library. So I have Promethean Horrors and also Doorway to Dilemma. This one is edited by Xavier Aldana Reyes, and this one is edited by Mike Ashley. And so essentially in Promethean Horrors, we have stories basically about mad science and kind of Lovecraftian-esque things that happen. And this one is really intriguing to me because they're both basically for research for Wub Wub. This one is more so going in towards kind of like the kind of gothic horror of things, the like little insidious bits that I think really could help flesh out a lot of the writing. And then we have Doorway to Dilemma, which is dark fantasy, which kind of blends elements of horror and fantasy together, which is kind of what I'm trying to achieve with my book. There are like many different stories. Like for example, in Promethean Horrors, we have stories from Mary Shelley, Edgar Allan Poe, Robert Louis Stevenson, H.P. Lovecraft. And then in Doorway to Dilemma, we have stories from Arthur Machen, H.G. Wells, Catherine Wells, Lucy Clifford. And so I think both of these books will really be able to deliver something that can help me with my writing process in the future. And I think it's just going to be quite an intriguing read. And I think it'll be intriguing to also annotate these and see like the little bits that I pick out that I think can really help flesh out atmosphere, mood, and like motifs and stuff. And I think it's just gonna be beautiful. And so the final book that I want to read this spring, and one that kind of speaks to me the most, is I Want to Die, But I Want to Eat Tteokbokki. And this is by Beck Sihi, but it's also translated into the English by Anton He. And this one is basically part memoir, part self-help book, and it follows Beck Sihi, who basically disentangles the feedback loops, reactions, and harmful behaviors that keep her locked in a cycle of self-abuse. And she does this through recording her dialogues with her psychiatrist over a 12-week period. And I've seen a lot of people read this and get such like insightful things from it that I think it's going to be really intriguing to read this and see the things that I gather from it. Because I watched this, oh my god, I keep referencing TikTok where someone was talking about an element of this book and it really spoke to me. And so I think I definitely want to read this sooner rather than later because of the fact that that came up, and now I'm just like, I need to read it. But overall, these are the 11 books that I want to read this spring, and I'm just so excited for the like reading months we have ahead. It's just gonna be so exciting to see the amount of like ideas and content that I make, but also the stories that I'll uncover, the stories that we'll uncover together through the Book Explorers Tavern. I think it's just going to be so amazing. And so if you did want to join the Book Explorers Tavern and discover like the amazing amount of things that Fable has to offer, again, you can use the link in the description to do so. And again, a massive thank you to Fable for sponsoring a portion of this video. It's sponsors like these that help keep the channel going, and it's just really encouraging and exciting to see all of you get involved as well. I hope you liked today's video. I was like, I really feel the strawberry shit today. Like, it's been a while since I've worn it, but it fits differently on me now than it did before, and I really like the way it fits now. I hope you have a nice rest of your day and week ahead of you. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and if you're new here, be sure to click that subscribe button so you're notified whenever I upload next. I'll have all my social medias in the description down below for you so you can follow me on every single other platform. And yeah, I'm just really excited to see everything that happens over the next few months and just really feel the spring vibes come in before we go into the summer. And so yeah, I guess until the next time, bye besties.